Good morning, Shavua Tov, Agotavach. Welcome to the Kilat Shari Torah Daily Halacha Review and Sefirah Omer Count. Today is day 21 of the Omer. Hayom Echad ve'esrim Yom Shehem Shlosha Shavuot LaOmer. That's 3 complete weeks of the Omer now. We're on our way toward Shavuos. We are exactly 4 weeks away from coming up on Shavuos. So there is a phrase in the sayings of the sages to which we refer in the main with regard to Pesach, Purim to a certain extent, and certainly Sukkot. Shloshim yom kodem achag, shoylem v'darshim behilchas achag. 30 days before the holiday, we begin asking questions and explaining, reviewing the laws of the holiday. For Pesach, obviously a lot of material to keep in mind with regard to selling chametz and making matzahs and making the seder at home and so on. So there's a lot of technical points to keep in mind. For Sukkot, no less, with lulav and esrog, with the laws of eating in a sukkah, what happens when it rains, and so on. What about poor Shavuos? So Shavuos comes along 50 days after Pesach, and what do? We eat cheesecake. Maybe we stay up late at night. Maybe we have an extra learning program and so on. So since there's no shofar, since there's no matzah, since there's no seder, Shavuos gets a little bit short shrift. Doesn't get the intensive halacha review that some of the other holidays do. So let's try to rectify that a little bit. Since we're just about 30 days more or less out front of Shavuot, let's take the opportunity to review some of the laws of Yom Tov, Hilchos Yom Tov. Which we probably don't spend enough time on, because whenever it's a Yom Tov coming up, we focus on the laws of that holiday much more intensively than the laws of Yom Tov itself. So here, the words of Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Any malacha, any productive labor, you know that term from the laws of Shabbat, any malacha that you're not supposed to do on Shabbos is also forbidden on Yom Tov. So the restrictions on productive labor, writing, doing business, all these things, apply to Yom Tov as they do on Shabbat. Just on Shabbos, it's forbidden to have work even done by a non-Jew, so the same thing, it's forbidden on Yom Tov. And just as a person is commanded to allow your animals to rest on Shabbos, so you're commanded on Yom Tov also. There is one distinction. What's that distinction? Yom Tov differs from Shabbos only in regard to the preparation of food, because there's a concept that the Torah mentions called Ochel Nefesh. You can find it in the 12th chapter of Chumash Shmos, of the book of Exodus. Only that which is eaten by the soul, Ochel Nefesh, that alone can be prepared by you. So, in other words, to eat, to feed yourself on Yom Tov itself, and there's specific guidelines for that also we'll speak about in due course. Kneading, baking, slaughtering, cooking, for Yom Tov itself, you are allowed to do on the Yom Tov itself. Carrying and lighting a fire are permitted on Yom Tov, even if they're not needed directly for preparing food, but for some other necessity. The sages had a tradition about these two malachas of carrying, hotza'ah, which we're talking about in our Talmud class, and also lighting a flame, of which it said, since these labors are permitted for the purpose of preparing food, they're also permitted for purposes other than preparing food. What else would you need to light a fire for? Oh, so to light your house, keep your house warm. Okay, thankfully we have a thermostat and a furnace that takes care of that for us. But there's the idea of a yortzeit candle. So on the second day of Yom Tov, when we say yortzeit, when we say yizkar many of us have the custom, unfortunately for those that we've lost, to light a yortzeit candle. So Kitzur Shulchan Aruch says a yortzeit candle may not be lit on Yom Tov. Then it gives a footnote and says the Ksav Sofer, responsum number 65, you can take a look, permits us to light yortzeit licht, and that's actually what many of us do, in fact, as we said. But it's still better to light it in the shul, where you are allowed to light candles on Yom Tov in honor of the synagogue. Mizgeres HaShulchan, another commentary on Shulchan Aruch, says the custom is to light them even at home, but it's best to do it in synagogue. And Bir Halacha there, the Chavetz Chaim, I believe, adds that if you light it in your house, you should do it in the room where you eat. So in fact, I believe that's what many of us do. We light the Yortzeit licht right next to the Yom Tov licht themselves. Okay, so that's a little bit of an introduction into the laws of Yom Tov. We'll continue in the days to come. Emir Hashem, have a good day and a good week. See you tomorrow.